Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Real Mondays. It is good to be back. Um we had a slight break last week where I took the time to celebrate my birthday, and now we are back here on Get Real Mondays. As you would have seen, the month of October will be dedicated or is dedicated to mental health awareness. For this month, we'll be talking about things regarding that topic. So we would be dividing the topic into 3 weeks actually, because last week was week 1 of October. We didn't have a live then, but we would be for the next 3 weeks, we'd be exploring different topics associated with mental health awareness. This first topic is dealing with anxiety and trauma, and of course we have a guest tonight. Her name is Davril Valley. She would be joining us very soon, and we would take the time off to explore the topic of trauma and anxiety. But before we do that, I'd like to take the time off to say thank you to everyone who last Monday wished me a happy birthday. It was a day well spent, filled with work, but it was still a day well spent. So I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time off to say happy birthday to me, to extend your well wishes. I appreciated each and every one of them. So yeah, thank you so much for the greetings. I'm looking for my guest. She would be joining soon. As soon as she's here, we will go ahead and get into to our Get Real Mondays. So guys, remember, as I was saying, October is geared towards mental health awareness. If you know anyone who suffers from any mental health issues, you can feel free to share this live with us throughout the month of October. What I will also be doing is I will be putting up different posts on mental health. I would be trying to share resources with you where you can get assistance. So because we want to make this not just something that we are speaking about, but we want to provide you with resources where you can get assistance for issues that you are having. So throughout the week, I would be sharing different things with you. I would be sharing where you can go to get assistance, different coping mechanisms, whatever I think it is best, whatever I think would help you on your journey to mental wellness, we will be sharing here on this page. So this is one time I would ask you to share this live, because this topic is extremely, extremely important. It is important that we talk about these things. It is important that we normalize conversations around mental health awareness, around mental health issues, whatever we're dealing with in that realm of things. It is important that we normalize having conversations about it. So I'll ask you to share, make sure that your people, your friends know that we're having a progressive conversation, a conversation that would lead to their enlightenment, that would lead to them living a life that is well-rounded. So this life is aimed towards that. So make sure you share it. Something else that I also want to address, and maybe at the end I would speak about it a little more. I would have alluded to in September that we would be migrating Get Real Mondays from my personal page to a public page. And I am in the process. I'm happy to say that I'm in the process of creating that page. I'm in the process of getting that page up. I wanted to have it up for this live, however, things didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, but hopefully by the middle of this week, Wednesday for the latest, that page would be up. What I can say is all of you who are my friends here have already been migrated to that page, so you're safe. You wouldn't risk missing a a Get Real Monday. However, you can share that page so other people can like the page, can follow the page, and be enlightened as you and be included in the conversations that we will have moving forward. Let me see if I get my guest so that we can start having this conversation and we can all be enlightened. Don't forget to share this live. Make sure and share this live. Let me see. Oh. I'm not finding her. Let me see. Yes, there we go. So I'm a guest and you will see her face. Her name is Davril Valley. What I can say about her is that currently, hi.
Oh my
Good.
goodness. We're good. We're good.
We're good.
All
Yes,
right.
We're
Good
good. So
evening.
good evening, guys. This is Miss Davril Valley. I'll leave her to introduce herself to you. Davril, be sure to plug your different pages. Be sure to do so that everybody can get to know you and follow you. What she does would be of great benefit to anyone listening here. So, Davril, take it away.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with you this evening and everybody that's tuned in. I'm seeing people popping up saying good night. Hello, good night,
Yes.
everybody. Um, I really appreciate the pleasure because honestly, this is a topic that I love to talk about,
Right.
right? And yes, this is Mental Health Month, but these are things that we should be talking about anyway. But before I get
Yes.
into the actual topic, let me introduce myself. Let me slow my roll, right? My name is Davriel Valley, right? It sounds like Gabrielle, but it's Davriel. My
Right.
parents wanted to be unique, and I got stuck constantly explaining my name for the past however many years, right? So Davriel Valley, I'm a psychotherapist, a nationally certified counselor in the United States. I do marriage and family therapy as well as mental health counseling, and I'm a trauma specialist. I'm currently
Nice.
working towards becoming a traumatologist. So that's a bit about me, my qualifications, all in the United States. And I'm now back in Trinidad and Tobago, ready to serve my country. I have a private practice, a virtual private practice right now called Evolving You, which you can find us EVOLVIN
Mm-hmm.
the letter U.com. There you will be able to find all of my social media plugs, my Instagram page, my Facebook page, my WhatsApp, if you want to reach out, because I definitely do give a free consultation, so that anybody who's interested in starting counseling or therapy, they could reach out and we could, meet, have that free consult, and then we could decide whether or not we want to move forward. So today I said I was hijacking Lynn's her
My
thought.
life.
Um, she told me she wanted to speak about anxiety and trauma. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yes, we are going to talk about this. We are going to normalize this.
Yes.
And we're going to make sure that people really understand that, going to counseling on a whole is not for crazy people, right?
I love
Because
it.
I feel like that's still a stigma that we're
That's the
fighting,
thing.
especially
Yes.
in the Caribbean. So I'm gonna start with anxiety, right? I
Right.
don't know if you have, and you're gonna be my guinea pig today, right? Uh,
Happily.
have you ever have you ever had a group presentation, or in high school you had to do presentations for school and you had to go up in front and you have the projector behind you and read, and
Yes.
you ever experienced that?
Yes. Well, yes, but the thing about it is, anxiety doesn't show up like that for me when you grow up a Seventh-day Adventist and you forever have to present. It doesn't show up like that for me, but yes, I know where you're coming from.
Right, right. And so, okay, so you will have to tell me how for you it shows up, right? But definitely, I know. So think on that. I know that some people in the audience may be thinking, yeah, I remember having to present a presentation in school, or if
Right.
it was in church and I had to go up and sing in front of the entire church, things like that,
Right.
right? Where you kind of feel a little fluttering in the stomach. You know, your chest kind of gets a bit tight.
Right.
Your heart has to race a little bit, right?
Right.
You probably have a little shaky hands or sweaty hands, sweaty
Right.
palms.
A little shaky
So
voice.
the shaky voice.
Mhm.
So you said that didn't happen for you in terms of when you had to go up and present, but can you
Right.
think of a time when it did happen for you?
Yes. In my older years, I think with the transition from being a student, so doing your undergrad, and going out into the work of into the world of work, it shows up for me right before interviews
Ooh,
a
ooh.
lot because I think, well, I kind of psychoanalyze myself a little, but I think it's because of rejection, being so getting accustomed to rejection and expecting it, it shows up there.
Yes. So a lot of the time when we have, that kind of social anxiety, it really comes from a place of not wanting to be judged, right?
Right.
But the whole point is nearly everybody experiences anxiety. Everybody
Hmm.
experiences anxiety. It's healthy, right? That's the thing. Anxiety is a completely natural response to a
Hmm.
stressor.
Right.
Completely natural. Where it gets unhealthy is if you're constantly feeling this anxiety, because all of those symptoms that I just explained, right? The sweaty palms, the racing heartbeat, the shaking of the voice, the what about your muscles? Your muscles are tense, right? They're
Yes. Yes.
coiled up, right? All of those things, having it long term is not healthy,
Right.
right? So what was a natural response then becomes a negative response. So if you think about it, we not white, right? So we don't really go hunting. But if you could imagine that we went hunting, right?
Right.
Um, we go hunting in the woods and there's a bear.
Right.
What kind of response do you think you would have?
That same fair response where you're shaking, you don't know
I
if to
just saw
run,
your
attack.
eyes just open wide. You're
Yes, exactly.
shaking, right?
Yes.
Just thinking about it, maybe your heart kind of raced a little bit.
Of course.
Um,
Your hands like,
clenched, right?
yes.
So, and that's perfectly natural if you're in the woods with a bear, right? Um, what is not natural is, let's say, okay, for some reason you got away from that bear, you kicked your fight flight senses and you just ran straight out of there and you got home. And now you're at home, you're dreaming, and you're
Hmm.
dreaming of that. And those same responses come up, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like you took the bear home with you. So you're constantly on edge, you're constantly feeling those same symptoms. That is typically what PTSD looks like, right? Now, it may not be an actual bear. For some
Right.
people, it could be an abuser. For some people, it could be that presentation we were talking about. For some people, um, it could be anything. It could come in any form, but it's that idea of taking the bear home with you and then constantly living on alert. That is anxiety. And so I
All right.
really want people to understand. Did you have a question?
Well, go ahead. And when you finish, I'll talk.
I really want people to understand what anxiety really looks like, because I think that a lot of times people who experience anxiety, they get the short end of the stick. It's almost like, oh, just shake it off.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done. Have you been
Right.
told that?
Well, I didn't have the opportunity to be told that because I didn't necessarily share my experience.
Right. I'm seeing a comment that
Right.
just
I'm not
said
going to read.
that just
Yes.
said I my heart always is always racing, especially when I overthink things, right?
Yes.
And overthinkers, Oh my gosh. Anxiety driven, right?
Yes.
I see you being like, amen, that's me. Yes.
Yeah.
Anxiety, when you hear somebody that's overthinking, it's because of that anxiety. That anxiety is racing so much. And when we're young, we don't have a label, right? We don't know what it
Right.
is. We don't have
Right.
the vocabulary. So we just know we've always been like this. We've always experienced these racing thoughts and this overthinking spiral that you start with one thing and then it just goes all the way down into this huge other thing, right? We don't know that that is anxiety, but that is what it is. So now that you're able to label it, right? What do I do about it? How do I challenge these thoughts? How do I slow that thought process down?
Before you move, right, as you were talking, for me, because you were talking about, I'm seeing you making the connections between things that may trigger it or things like that. And for me, what I've found is that when I was at my worst with it, it came out of like I could not pinpoint a trigger. So there were times when you would get up and the first thing it is just this overwhelming feeling, the same as if you were with a bear, heart racing, sweating,
Mhm.
crying, like crying, not no little tears, like crying, and not you
Yeah.
just get up like there's no reason for you to be feeling in the most surface way possible. You would think there's no reason for me to be feeling like this. I haven't experienced anything for the day as yet, but that is how I'm. So I had instances where it would show up like that. Get up in the morning, and That's the first feeling.
Yeah. I think the most critical thing that you said was in the most surface way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Surface. It's what is in your awareness, right? Your scope of awareness, in your consciousness. Yeah, there's probably no trigger, but that's not to say that there isn't something that you've buried unconsciously that is triggering you. And so I am honestly, it may sound bad, but the pandemic has shown a lot of people that they've just been going,
Yes.
right? Just living, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now that you have to stop, it's showing you that there's a lot more beneath the surface.
Ooh, Davril looked like if she got bumped off. Guys, we have to get back Davril because the conversation was going too good. So let's see if we could get her back because my girl was in the throw of all things great. So Davril, if you're seeing me, there we go, Davril. Odd.
Okay, are we back?
Yes, we are back. We are back. We was
Okay.
in it, but the devil is a liar. For some reason, I am not seeing you though. I don't know why. So I'm not seeing you
Um,
though. I don't
I am
know why.
hearing you.
Anybody else not seeing Davril, or is it just me? I'm not seeing you at all.
Yeah, please comment because I'm seeing you
If you
perfectly.
Yeah, so guys, if you're not seeing Davril, let me know. If you are, Davril, they are seeing you, I'm good with it. We could move forward, but if they're not seeing you, you might have to step off and join back in.
Okay, no problem.
Terry, tell me if you're seeing Davril, please. Lynn. Look at them, they start already. So, all
Not
right. So they're
seeing.
saying they're
Okay.
not seeing you. So start, come off and come back in. Hopefully that fixes it. Somebody said only you, Lynn. I'm not seeing. Okay, right. So most people are not seeing her. So let's see if I get her back.
Am
Still
I
not
seeing?
seeing. Still not seeing you. I don't know why.
Goodness.
I don't look at that. The devil is a liar. We're doing too much good work, not tonight, you know. We're out here doing the good works. But guys, feel free to make your comments. Nakita, I try a little thing today. I see you say I looking nice, thanks. I try I try a little thing today. Come on. Let's see. Let's
Are you
what's good? You
all
cannot
right?
turn
We're
on
going too
your
well.
you We were going to well. Make sure your camera is on. I don't know if it's against something, but make sure your camera is not turned the other way or anything like that. Because this is funny. Man, what's this? Let us see. Johanna. I don't like this, man. All we can try to do is that. Let me see. Guys, I hope by what's happening, you guys are, it's already beginning to open up for you, and you guys are already beginning to, there you go.
You see me?
Bam.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
God is good.
We're back. We're nice. God is good. So before we move though, let's take a little bit of comments because you was spitting some fire, so they were reacting. For example, we have Johnny saying, I'm a mess, but that overwhelming feeling in the morning is real. So Sammy saying that the pandemic triggered her anxiety. Somebody saying Terry always anxious. Yes, Terry hyper.
Anything else there that came up?
Let me see. I'm looking. So, but no, as it pertains to anxiety, those were the comments that stood out that they are identified with the feeling in the morning, and of course with the COVID bringing everything to light.
Yes. So definitely, like I was saying, right? Anxiety feeds on pace. I will call it that, right? On being fast, on constantly moving. So people who experience anxiety, what they do is they're constantly distracting themselves. Right? So I'm going to work, then I'm coming home, I'm going to work, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing that, right? It's a constant, you need to be on the go. But what COVID did was it forced you to stop.
Right.
And now why that anxiety has come to the surface, because now there's no distractions.
Right.
It's just you and you. You and your anxiety, basically, right? You're forced to face
it. And your anxiety.
Definitely, right? And so because of that, Terry's saying she had a question. I'm not sure if you can find it.
The question she asked is, how can one control their overthinking?
Okay, so the way to control your overthinking really is tied in, I would put it this way, your ability to be with yourself. If you can learn, and it is a skill, the art of just sitting with yourself.
Yes.
That is so freeing. Now, at first, it's crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I tell clients all the time, the first time you try either meditation or deep breathing, it's gonna be
mindfulness.
excruciating because again, you're so accustomed getting up and doing, and now you're forcing your body to just be still. But the more you train yourself in sitting with yourself, slowing down, right? Your mind is then going to follow suit. So your mind is also going to slow down. So that's one thing you do, right? Slowing down. The other thing you do is challenging those thoughts. Now, many times, a lot of those thoughts are, I would put it this way, unrealistic, right? When you start that downward spiral, remember we were talking about earlier, of you have a thought, and as an overthinker, you just go straight down that vortex, right?
Yes.
Our imagination is so powerful that a lot of the things that we tell ourselves doesn't come into fruition.
Right.
So basically, I like to tell clients to fact check. When you have one of those thoughts that come up, really stop and ask yourself, is this a fact? Do I know this is actually going to happen? What do I know about this situation? What can I control? What is out of my control? And at the moment, it may seem like everything is out of your control. But the truth is, there are some things that are in your control, even
Right.
if it's simple as your daily routine, which a lot of us kind of threw out of the window as soon as the pandemic hit. And
Yeah.
that just perpetuated our anxiety. And if you have depression as well, everything just got worse because you threw that out. But no, control what you can control. Control what time you get up. Control what you eat.
Yeah.
Control, when you work out. Those are things you actually do have control over. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you put things that you have control in your control, you feel a bit more structured.
Right.
And some of us may feel like we don't like structure, but the truth is our brains need that structure. What do we do for children when we're trying to groom them? We give them
We
structure.
provide structure.
You
Yes.
have a bedtime, you wake up at this time, right? You
Yes.
eat at this time, you dress at this time. We give them structure. But somehow,
Yeah.
as adults, when we get so caught up in our daily lives, we forget those basic things, those basic principles that would have helped us. And so we no longer go to bed on time. We go to
Mhm.
bed at 3 a.m. and then expect that our bodies are going to just be fine, right? All
Right.
of this doesn't help your anxiety. So I say what you can control, control.
Control it. Nice. So we have a few comments here. Moeva is asking, what advice would you give to someone whose anxiety is showcased once he or she is admitted to the hospital?
Okay, so I need a bit more
Information.
information, right? Um, when you say their anxiety is showcased once he or she is admitted to the hospital, do you mean they've already been admitted for something else and then they get anxiety, or they're admitted because of their anxiety?
She means, I'm thinking she means that whensoever she has to go to the hospital, whether it is for anything, she gets anxious. So anxiety arises whenever she thinks or has to go to the hospital.
Okay. So definitely I would look into that, right? And this kind of takes my segue into the trauma piece, right?
Right.
Uh, we had to reach there because, as far as I'm concerned, they're closely linked.
Right.
So I'm going to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think that every single person is born with a backpack, right? So as soon as we come on this earth, we have a backpack on our back. And in that backpack, there are certain little rocks in that backpack. One rock is your ethnicity, one rock is the family you were born into, one rock is the culture you were born into, right? Those things you had no control over, they were placed in your backpack.
Right.
But as you continue through your journey of life, you'll encounter certain things. These things are big boulders, right? One could be a very toxic relationship that you were caught into. One could be a neglectful parent, right? So different boulders, different types of traumas. These are all placed into your backpack. Now, what do you think it would be like walking with a backpack with such big boulders on your back?
Mhm. Heavy. It would be bothersome. You'd be tired. You'd be worn out. It'll be hard.
Exactly. Right? And that is exactly what happens to a lot of people that have experienced trauma. Now, why do I bring up trauma? A lot of times we see trauma as a huge, gruesome accident or
Mhm.
um, 9/11, right? Now, those things
Yeah.
are trauma, but anybody can experience traumas. Traumas are subjective, right? So, what you consider traumatic, Lynn, I may not consider traumatic,
Right.
right? But it's all to which the degree it affects us. So
Right.
I bring all of that up to say that if you are being triggered by hospitals, let's say, I would beg to say that there's something underlying there. There's some boulder in there that you don't really know about. A
Right.
lot of times, what happens is more and more research is showing that, because you mentioned you wake up with anxiety, right, Lynn? And I'm just throwing this at you because I'm picking on you today. Um,
Yes.
a lot of times, our anxiety is passed down. So not only do we pick up our own boulders, but we are also carrying boulders of those that went on before us.
Right.
And we may not necessarily know about them. So there comes a level of introspection. There comes a level of, I need to get to know and understand more about not just myself, but even about my family history. And knowing my family history, I could then better understand myself. Because if I know what they've been through, I could know what I am going through. I could know
Right.
what, how they've dealt with things, and I could also know how in turn I will deal with things. And so that hospital, right? What is so triggering about being in the hospital? Have you yourself experienced a bad experience in that hospital? That would be your own trauma, right?
Right.
If you've experienced it. But if you've never experienced it, but you have this automatic anxiety to being in a hospital space, right? And there's nothing that you know you've experienced, then that tells me that there's something deeper there that needs to be
Yes.
looked at. And so I'll use this example. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a friend who he as soon as he turned age 21, he just started having cold shivers in the middle of the night. He'll wake up trembling, having cold shivers, and he never really understood why. He didn't, nothing happened to him, everything was fine, like he was good, but he just would always wake up screaming with night terrors and freezing, trembling. And then he went to a psychologist, he went to see them and started therapy. And he uncovered that his grandfather died in the snow, freezing on an electrical pole at age 21. Now, you might be like, oh my God, what? But it's just to tell you, right, that our genes carry with us a lot more than we think. And so just the same way that we could transfer our traumas, we can transfer resilience. So
Right.
right now, this pandemic is a time for rebirth. I say this is our cocoon period. We're going in, we're looking inward, we're growing, we're changing, we're right. But it's up to you what you want to pass on. Do you want to
Right.
pass on your traumas that you never wanted to look at because you were too, like, no, I don't want to look at it, right? Think about it. What are you doing for your future generations? Because even if you
Right.
think it's not impacting you, it's going to impact them.
I get you. No, you know what that brings me to, Davriel? It brings me
Mm-hmm.
to trauma as it pertains to parenting. Because in the
Oh,
Caribbean, I
sure.
think, yeah, yeah, because I think that is one thing that is passed on from generation to generation. And because of what we deem as respectful, we do not uncover them, we do not deal with them. We have maladaptive behaviors that we pass on from one generation to the next, and we clothe the us not wanting to uncover them into in the shrine of this is respectful. It's not respectful to question the way your parents spoke to you, or question the way they dealt with you, or even how some of us were abandoned by our parents. For me, I try not to go too specific, but in my family, I know of a story, and I see it. I see it manifested so much of abandonment, where the person
Try
was
not to get sued.
abandoned. The person was abandoned by their mother
Mm-hmm.
when they were really, really young, and it affected the way he dealt with all females in his life. And then there was an issue where trauma was revisited, because at a very old age, I don't say very old, but as a mature age, his mother showed back up, or she wanted to have more of a involvement in his life. How would you coach, or what would you recommend for people who we have issues like that in our families, and because of how we deal with parenting, we don't want to think about it, or we don't want to look at it? I don't know if
Right.
it's too much.
No. Hey, I told you my style of counseling is really, I want to give. I want to empower people that are listening to me. I don't want
Right.
people who have approached me to ever leave without having benefited in some way. So even though this is not a therapy session, I'm gonna say it's a therapy session, right? I'm
It
gonna
is.
treat you
Yes.
just like I treat all my clients, all of my clients, right? Um, okay, you're talking culture.
Mm-hmm.
That is what you're speaking about, culture. And in our culture, in our society, people of a certain age bracket, typically, they don't speak about certain things,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it negatively reflects on them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So whether it be things such as um, miscarriages, right? You would never hear if your mother had a miscarriage if she's of a certain age, because she would never talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is that there was someone in the family that had a mental illness or a mental condition, you'd never hear about it unless you saw them. They were kind of zip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you speak about this person that has experienced that abandonment, but I'll go even a bit further, because not all the time people in our culture have experienced abandonment, physical abandonment, but more so, many of us have experienced emotional neglect, right? So the parent is there, they're present, right? And they're doing what they think they should be doing, which is providing a roof over your head, giving you food to eat, have clothes on your back. So what you complaining about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Doing my
But the
job.
emotional component was lacking. And so
Right.
many of us, um, where they went through having a parent like that, where they didn't get to learn how is it that I actually emotionally connect in this world. Remember, the family is your first socialization. That's the incubator. That's where you learn everything, how you interact with everyone. And I always say, if you're experiencing something right now, I bet you, if you trace it back to your family, you could figure out why it started.
Right.
Answer is always in your family. It's always there. Most times, it always goes back to there. So when you talk about that parent, right, who either abandoned you or they were present but not emotionally present, something that I do with my clients is I tell them they have to grieve. Now, that might sound weird, right? The person's
Right.
alive, the person's completely alive, but I'm telling you, you have to grieve. Why is that? As children, based off of numerous things, whether it be um, our interactions with our other friends and their parents, or television, seeing parents on TV, the books you read, right? We create what our ideal parents should look like in our minds. We create that. The older we get, though, we recognize the divide between what my parent actually is and this idea of what I thought or wanted them to be. So
Right.
there's a split there, right? And so if they have been abandoned or if they have experienced that emotional neglect, they have to grieve that parent that they never had. That's the truth. Because in essence, it is like a death. You
Yes.
never got the parent that you thought you needed. And now, after grieving that parent that you never had, it's like, okay, now how do I see the parent that I actually have with fresh eyes, without those
Mm-hmm.
expectations, without those broken promises and all of that, just seeing them as they are? Because the truth is, they also experienced what they experienced, right? And
Yes,
they're just
correct.
passing on what they learned.
Correct. Somebody made that point because somebody was like, let me look at that comment. Blessed Flavor J. She said, it's difficult to give you what they don't have.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
And most times when you speak to your parent, right, the little bit of knowledge that they tell you about their growing up, their childhood, their
Yeah.
mother didn't give them I love yous. Their father
Yeah.
didn't tell them I love yous, right? So they are giving you what they have, which is
Best.
exactly that, right? It may not be much, it may not be what you need, and that's why you have to grieve that parent that you didn't have, but they are giving you exactly what they have to offer. And so how do we then, as this generation, right, who are so open to understanding our emotionality and repairing these traumas and breaking the cycle, how do we then come to terms with the fact that they didn't have that to give
Yeah.
and now repairing that with our next generation, right? And so many times, still using the example you gave with the person who was abandoned, many times out of our own hurt, we try to go the complete extreme. So we are like, you know what? I don't want to be nothing like my mama. I don't want to be
Yeah.
nothing like my daddy, right?
Yeah.
And we go the next extreme. But the truth is, sometimes that also causes problems. So the
Yep.
child who is abandoned, because they don't want to be anything like their parents, they then become that overbearing parent to their child. They're smothering their child. They're overprotective. They're this, right? Because it's a complete extreme, which
Yes.
that's not necessarily either, because it also then leads to problems. And
Yep.
honestly, many times you recognize, oh my gosh, I ended up just like my parents. I'm doing the
Inadvertently.
same thing that they did, probably just a little differently. So how do we now, like I said, grieve the parent we didn't have, see the parent that we do have, and learn from their mistakes? Find a middle of the road, right? Every person taught you something. Even if it was a hard lesson, you were taught something. So what
Yeah.
can I learn from this? What can I learn from my mom? She was not there, but what can I learn from her that I could do better, that I could do differently, right? And so that is what it's all about. It's about breaking that transgenerational trauma, because that is what it is. It's trauma passing on from generation to
From the
generation
generation.
and doing things differently. And why I say anxiety and trauma are so related is because you might see it as anxiety. That's how it manifests most times,
Yes.
but it could be trauma.
Right. Okay, so nice. This is so much, and we could go for so long. The time is coming up though, and you see, look at that. We just have just about 18 minutes. But so I just want to make sure that, and I know that that is one of your aims too. When we leave here, people have at least something that they can go back with, that they can possibly practice to assist them with dealing and navigating through anxiety. Because while yes, we love to and we promote seeking assistance, for some people it's not readily available. So for the people who may not have assistance, therapy, counseling at their fingertips, what are some of the things that you would recommend a person who is suffering from anxiety, who may have some sort of trauma that they're trying to unpack? What are some of the things that they can do without assistance? Because we know for people to get over that, assistance most of the times is necessary. But what are the things that you can recommend? Or I don't want to be very prescriptive because
No, definitely. I completely understand that. Unfortunately, the world we live in, sometimes mental health services are not as accessible as they should be. That's the
mm-hmm.
truth. And so I would still always advise, if you can seek a therapist, go for it. I know a lot of
Yes.
people, their first instinct, especially being from the Caribbean, is I don't want to tell a stranger my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the truth is, why not? With a stranger, there is no judgment. With a friend, there is. You'll get the, you did what? You did, huh? Right? You'll get all of that and a bag of sauce, right? So by a stranger who would not give you all of, right? Who could just be a neutral place for you to just express. When I see clients for the first time, sorry, I like to tell them, this is your space.
Right.
This is your space to take off the mask. This is your space to take off the superhero cape. So in this space, you could cry, you could be vulnerable, you could let it all out. When you leave, you could put back on your mask, you could put back on your cape, and go on being super. But right now, for this hour, this is your time. And a lot of people need that. They need that space that is just their own, where there's no judgment, right? So I do advocate for going to counseling. Try it. Try it. Most counselors do have a free consultation. There you can decide, do you like their vibe? Do you get along? Right? And then if you don't, you didn't spend any money. So, right? And if you do, then you get a great thing out of it. And even if you don't like your counselor, I like to say finding the counselor for you is like finding a good relationship, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that therapy is not for you. It could have just meant that counselor style isn't for you, that their modality isn't for you, right? So that's the first thing. Go to therapy, if you can. But what can you do? What can you do if you can, right? Or even if you want to eventually go to therapy, what can you start doing right now? I am a sucker for pen and paper.
Nice.
I think
Me too.
it's such a therapeutic release.
Cathartic release.
Taking up a pen and just writing. And so what I would say I want you to write about, because that may be the thing, right? Okay, so I have pen and paper, but what do I write? I would say to write about your family. And when I say write about your family, this is what I mean. If there's something that's triggering you, you know what it is. I don't know. I'm talking to you through a screen. But if there's something that's triggering you, I want you to ask yourself, how did my parents respond to something similar like this thing that is triggering me? So if it's a relationship, right? How did my parents react in their relationship? How did they react to infidelity? How did they respond to that, right? And reflect on where you got those reactions from. Just start there. Reflecting on where it came from. Reflecting on some of the patterns. So if you're in an unhealthy relationship, reflect on your parents. Did they have an unhealthy relationship, right? And like I said, and I'm saying somebody, we still live in a hush-hush society.
Yes.
And that's so true, right? We do. And so some people don't really have that much information even about their families. But whatever little you know, reflect on it, right? And it's funny, become curious. Not critical, but curious. Ask questions, right? Ask questions to those around you in your family. Before we may have asked with a tone of, critique. Why you do this, right? But now become, exactly, right? I want you to become curious. Oh, Mom, what was it like for you growing up in the 60s? And just have her talk. Just let her go, see where it goes. But become curious about your origins, because healing is back home. That's where it is.
That's a little quote from tonight. Healing is back home.
Thank you. It's been so fun. I really love it. I love what you're doing. Any platform that uses an opportunity to talk about mental health, I think, is amazing. Using it for this purpose, because more and more people have to recognize that it is important. I always say we go to the doctor, we go to the gym, we do all these things for our physical health. But what good is physical health if we don't have a mind to enjoy it?
Right. Well, thank you so much for for being here. For me, it is extremely important to talk about it to use my platform because I experienced it and nobody knew that I was experiencing it. And because I was able to talk about it with one person, I was able to get out of it. And to me, when we look at the society, we hear about some sort of suicidal attempt or a completion nearly every day. And now we're seeing that these things are starting even younger in our children. And we need to come to the point where we address things that matter to us, that affect us deeply, and we are not just surface. We normalize having these conversations so that we can all live our best life, whatever that best life looks to you. So whatever I can do to like bring awareness to these things, my pleasure. And you know, it was a pleasure speaking to you, Davriel. I hope you are available another time because you are a light. You are, yeah, you are a light, and we need to have more conversations like this. So I'll be reaching out to you. Before we go, let's take some love from the comments because look, you here, bring her back again. Jackie is saying we should bring her back again. One of my cousins said she did not get to view the whole thing. So Tibbs, you have to look it over. It was really good. It was informative. Share it, guys. You know, I do not normally, Gabriel, I'm not the type of person to say share the live. That's just not my thing. I like my audience to be organic. I like them to be very into it. So I don't say share the thing or whatever. If you're interested in the topic, click on the live on your view. But this one, I really want you guys to share it. I want you to share it because these conversations are important, because people are suffering silently, because people wouldn't say I need this live. People may not want to be seen on the lives to ask questions, but they would watch it in their spare times and take their notes and apply what is being said to you in their lives. So for the people who are in hiding and suffering in hiding, share it so that they can see. Tiffany saying I might have to go and cry for sis because my mental health holding on by a thread. And Tiffany, I know that you are in university. So we have children who are dealing with online schooling, with the just everything that is happening in life and COVID. So it is a lot, guys. Look at this live. Next week we'll be talking about depression and suicidal thoughts, tendencies, and maybe attempts. We try to cover that topic. It's a big topic, but we try to cover it. And on the last week, what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about therapy. How do you find a therapist? Could you find a therapist and then decide, nah, she don't work for me? What should you ask your therapist? Should it just be a one-way conversation? All of those things we'll be talking about. So please, guys, continue to share, continue to look every Monday. This month is a very important month. What I've had for the guys here in Trinidad, I've gotten a list of the different centers that you can go to and get access to therapy and counseling free of cost. So I will try to make that list available to you guys here on my page. And of course, remember that we are transitioning into the Linnis Abraham page that is public and separate from my personal page so that you guys can have these things at your fingertips. Thank you again, Davril. It was a
No problem.
It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure. Like I said, such a great thing that you're doing. I love the fact that you're taking a whole month dedicated to this. All the best to everybody out there. I know it's hard times, but like I said, your cocoon period, make the best of it and emerge as a butterfly.
And after the cocoon, you become a butterfly, guys. Beautiful. Yes. Beautiful, glorious. So thanks, Davrel. We shall see. You. We will keep in contact for sure.
Definitely. And you know where to find me. Evolving You.
That's right.
Just look me up, Instagram, Facebook, find me. Definitely.
Spell it again so that they would know it. It's EVOLVINU, right?
Yep. Definitely.
Good. Great, guys. So look her up on Instagram and here on Facebook. was Davriel. It was such a great topic. This hour flew by, but as I said, the information that she shared, applicable. It is, it is something that I am passionate about. So, guys, as I was saying, remember, look out for my public page. When you do see it, most of you guys would have already been transitioned as followers because you are my friends. Be sure to share the page so that other people can get involved in our conversations. um, it was this year, you guys are helping me so much with my life. You guys are helping me so much with living in my purpose and ensuring that my mental health is intact. Because of this, I feel as if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be here doing. So let's continue this. We will have a lot more coming along. That would be more than just Get Real Mondays. This year, Get Real Mondays is just our start, and it started so organically. So I have to say a big thank you to each and every one of you. But once the public page launches, there would be so much more coming from me and my little team. So thank you guys so much. See you again next week, where we will be talking about depression and suicidal thoughts, tendencies, and possibly attempts. See you. Be well. Be sure to practice what you learned today. Look for a therapist if you need one. Be positive, and remember, as Davriel said, healing begins at home. All right, guys. See you.